This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. I am Dr. Duke, and I am joined today by Alex Newman. Alex, always good to see you on the dawning of a new weekend. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for having me, Duke.
Good. So we have some stories today. I mean, you know, you and I, can I do a virtual handshake with you? Because we are always right about this stuff. We've been right about this stuff for 10 years, 12 years. And unfortunately, far too moms and dads aren't paying attention. So let's demonstrate exactly how the federal government works with regards to education. Let's talk about the war on parents, because this is one of the great big stories in the country that nobody's talking about. How federal government in all sorts of ways, state governments, and particularly through education, there is a war being waged against parental rights. Start with the first story. We have our education secretary. This guy is a lightweight. He actually makes Betsy DeVos look academically capable. This is how bad he is. And so he came out recently and said that he does not like misbehaving parents acting like they know what's right for their kids. This is the Secretary of Education. Bad parents, misbehaving. Notice he treats parents like little babies. You're misbehaving. You don't know what's good for you. The children, on the other hand, wards of the state now in public schools, they know better than the parents do. It can't get more disturbing than this. Am I wrong about that, Alex?
No, you're exactly right, Duke. And we've seen this radical progression just in a period of a few years where they went from going on TV and saying, children belong to the whole community. We're all going to participate in raising these kids, to now, what, you don't want naked men dancing in front of your children? Well, you're a bigot. You don't know what's best for your children. So this is a very, very disturbing trend. We've seen Biden now several times this year come out and say, they're our children. They're all of our children. They don't belong to parents. Right, this is the guy who literally has been caught on camera dozens of times sniffing and touching children in radically inappropriate ways. Frankly, this guy doesn't belong anywhere near a child. His own daughter said she was very uncomfortable with the bizarre showers he was forcing her to have in her late adolescence with him. This guy belongs nowhere near a child. Then we have Miguel Cordona, who was asked, the Secretary of Education, who was asked in a Senate hearing. There he is right there for those of you watching us. Was asked in a Senate education hearing by a senator whether parents are the primary stakeholders in the education of their children. And he says, well, they're important stakeholders, but the teachers, right? So this ideology that parents are somehow in the way, that government is the one that should be overseeing the education of children, it's not a new ideology. Adolf Hitler believed it. And in fact, the lying, dishonest propagandist at Media Matters, I quoted Adolf Hitler after quoting a bunch of Democrats to show that this is the same thinking, that parents should be out of the way, government should educate children. Media Matters said, oh my goodness, Alex Newman is quoting Hitler, therefore Moms for Liberty is like a Hitler group. That's how dishonest the other side is, Duke. They cannot address what we're saying, so they lie about us, they distort what we say. But this is Nazi ideology, this is communist ideology. It's the same ideology that has produced millions of murders across the world over the last 100 years, and it is now unfortunately manifesting in our own backyard here in the United States.
All across the country, they laughed at you and me, Alex. They laughed at us when we pointed out over a dozen years ago, this Common Core is not educational. It's about allowing the federal government more, through money and all sorts of means, more control over what was going on in our kids in schools. And now it's here. And now they're not even pretending. This was the thing that was so maddening. We said it was going to happen. We were lied about. Then it happened. Now it's like we never said it to begin with. And they're doing what we said they were going to do. They're using the power that was taken from us, and they're using it to take our children and to remold them in their image, not ours. Listen to this video of the Secretary of Education.
I've been in education, about 25 years, not including the time I was in higher ed as a student. I've never seen it where it is now. There was civility. We could disagree. We could have healthy conversations around what's best for kids. I respect differences of opinion. I don't have too much respect for people that are misbehaving in public. and then acting as if they know what's right for kids.
The most galling aspect of that, this lying son of a bleep is telling you, we'll listen to you, we'll talk to you, we'll debate with you. No, you don't. Everything you've done since you took the seat there has to tell parents how it's going to be. When do you listen to us? When? When have you ever said, you know what? I've listened to the parents and I'm stepping back from this. You are a liar fit for this federal government run by Joe Biden because you pretend that I'm open. Look, I've been in education for 30 years. 30 years, Mr. Cardona, not 25, not including my college days. And I can tell you, I've never seen it worse either. And it's not because of parents. Parents are involved only because of the nonsense and the garbage and the trash you're forcing on the kids. You could not be more dishonest about this, and I'm over with it. This is not a mistake. You are a dog-face, lying pony soldier, if we may quote your boss.
Yeah, and they are lying. They're incredibly dishonest. Not only were they not listening to parents, they were using terrorism resources at the FBI to target parents who were too vociferous in defending their children from grooming, from sexualization, from indoctrination, from outright perversion, from unbelievable lies like the idea that they might have been born in the wrong body and if they're castrated or have a hysterectomy, they can be their true selves. I mean, this is the kind of thing that is so unbelievable. It's hard to imagine we're even having this discussion. And yet when parents spoke out to defend the interests of their children, they were accused of being terroristic. They had the FBI knock on their door. This is so far removed from what's acceptable. It's in a whole nother universe. And frankly, I think there needs to be accountability here. These people are behaving as totalitarians. These people are behaving in the same way that Adolf Hitler and Chairman Mao behaved as it comes to their view of the role of the state when it comes to children. And this is totally intolerable. It's totally unacceptable. And frankly, I think there needs to be accountability in a very real way, not just removing these people from office. When you think it's okay to expose children to the kinds of things that these people are exposing your children to, we have criminal laws on the books in every one of the 50 states that protects children from these kinds of things. Granted, there are exceptions in a lot of states for public schools. I think we need to eliminate those exceptions. And I think anybody who gives obscenity to a children, anybody who recommends that a child be castrated, these people ought to be facing criminal sanctions.
Yeah, and this was an interview with the Associated Press that Cardona gave, which would let you know it was a complete bunch of softballs lobbed his way. No challenge to any of the lies. Take one more of these lies related to Cardona here. We were told back in 2011 and 12 that Common Core was a local decision, right? That local school districts had the right, and that's the way it used to be. Local school districts had the right to adopt or not adopt something. So when the funny thing is that none of the local school districts actually took it. The states took it and then forced it on their local schools. So again, for progressive initiatives that favor the federal government over parents, they lie to you. We put these federal programs in by force, really, not by choice. And then they tell you you still have local control. Then, when local school districts want to get rid of it, as we see in California, right? A local school board decided, we don't want your LGBTQ agenda. And not only are they suing that school board, they're trying to get them fired. They're passing laws to punish school boards, right, who dare to engage in local control. But when it comes to getting rid of LGBT programs, for instance, the state can't do that, right? Local school boards have to do it. Then, wink, wink, if you're a local school board that tries to do it, we're going to crush you.
Yeah. And that's the same thing we've seen on issue after issue. They're always lying, dude. They say, we don't want book bans. You're censoring books. You want to burn books. Oh, well, let's give all the kids a Bible to read in English. Oh, no, we can't do that. I mean, we got to ban that particular book. So they're just lying. I mean, that's what they do. They lie, they lie, they lie. And, of course, we know who is the father of lies. It's satanic. And that's why we shouldn't be surprised to see the kind of disgusting filth that they are giving to our children. And then the way that they just start foaming at the mouth when anybody even resists in the slightest way. We talked about some weeks ago, to build on this California thing, Newsom is running around whining about book bans and so on. This one district had banned a book that glorified Harvey Milk, who was a child rapist, right? Would he be so upset if a school district banned, say, the Bible, right? It's total hypocrisy. They are just using arguments of convenience. There's no principle involved. There's no constitutional acceptability. It flies in the face of any sense of morality, and yet that's what they do. And then they want to target you as a parent if you stand in the way of this actual evil.
Now, this again goes back to 1979, right? We knew the schools were bad before 1979, but 1979 was the camel's nose under the tent. And every decent person who understood that this was unconstitutional, creating a Department of Education at the federal level, there was no mention of public schools in the founding documents, which means the best you could have asked for, I suppose, would have been state-led education departments, which would have been legal. They probably would have been corrupted too, as they are now. But now that you have the feds who control so much money and are now threatening to take it away, I'm sure you saw what Tennessee is trying to do. The state of Tennessee is the first state in a long time who's saying, you know what, we have a pretty solid budget. You know what? Maybe we're going to see about getting rid of federal education money. And you know as well as I, Alex, it's usually about 7-8%. It's not over 10%. You're getting 90% of your state funding from the state. So maybe you bite the bullet and you come up with that extra 8%, and then you completely free yourself from the tyranny of the federal government. But you know what's going to happen. The minute Tennessee does it, there will be lawsuits from the feds. And what they're going to say is, you're not taking this money, which means you're racist, because that money could have gone to low-performing inner-city schools. And they're going to tell you, you're not taking this money, therefore LGBTQ and trans kids will not be served, because that's what this money could be used for. So we're suing you, Title IX, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? Let's have that debate. Let's have that Supreme Court case. Let's let the Supreme Court decide. Does the federal government have the right to force states to take money and to use money, whatever they send, to do what the federal government wants? I'm willing to bet with this Supreme Court, they wouldn't win that case.
I suspect you're right. And, the Constitution is so clear. It delegates certain powers from the states, from the people, to a federal government. The list of most of those authorities is in Article 1, Section 8. Those are the powers that Congress has, the areas where Congress can legislate. Nowhere will you find any semblance of authority to do anything when it comes to education. So Tennessee would be absolutely in the right to say, we don't want your money anymore, and therefore we're not going to obey your regulations. You're absolutely right that the Biden administration would probably muster its top attorneys to go after the state of Tennessee, but I suspect Tennessee would win. They're standing on very clear constitutional ground here. The only way the feds have been able to insert themselves into state and local public school classrooms is through the money, which the money is what is providing them the control. There's no constitutional or even statutory authority for them to be controlling the standards, the content of the books, or anything else for that matter. But you're exactly right. They'll try to say that this is racist. And of course, that argument falls flat, right? The districts that are getting the most money from the federal government, the districts that are spending more than any other districts, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Detroit, they're some of the worst districts in the country. They've got dozens of schools that can't produce one single student proficient in reading, writing, or math. So obviously it's a hoax of an argument, but I was very pleased to see that happening in Tennessee. Actually, that was the subject of my Newman Report article this week for Freedom Media, and other states are considering it too. Oklahoma, South Carolina. We really need some Republican states to say this, and actually several of the lawmakers who are on this panel that's exploring this possibility, they say it looks like we're actually going to save money by cutting off the federal funding. We're not going to have to comply with this crazy maze of federal regulations and mandates. We're probably going to end up saving money when we do this, and I think they're right.
And how powerful if a number of conservative states bring this lawsuit together. After the break, we're going to give you more examples of how education is being used to undermine parents. We'll be right back. Back again with Alex Newman, and we're continuing our conversation that we had before the break about how school education, public education in the Western world is now a tool for oppressive governments to try to undermine and take away parental rights. Take a look at this story from Canada. Canada, I guess we shouldn't expect much educationally from Justin Trudeau. He's too busy giving standing ovations to Nazis. But Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau accuses parents of protesting grooming and manifesting hate. The idea here is that what the moms and dads are doing in protesting what the Canadian schools are doing, which is exactly what the American schools are doing. They are grooming kids. They are lowering achievement. They are forcing all kinds of progressive ideology in the classroom. And Trudeau says basically the exact same thing. Quote, "Let me make one thing very clear. Transphobia, homophobia, and biphobia," that's a new one I had not heard, "have no place in this country. We strongly condemn this hate and its manifestations, and we stand united with word salad across the country. You are valid and you are valued. So much so do we value that we're not going to teach you anything. We're not going to teach you math or science. We're going to make the entire school system about this constituent group only, and you're going to have to read pornographic trash to your kids because according to Justin Trudeau, that's what LGBT kids do. They have a lot of anal sex and gang orgies. That's apparently how the left sees them.
It's so far removed and divorced from common sense. It's, again, hard to imagine that this is happening. Justin Trudeau is one of the most interesting characters I've ever seen. I mean, here is a full-blown raging totalitarian who openly says some of the most outrageous things in the world. And, I mean, it's just amazing. But the real hate is very clearly coming from people like Justin Trudeau, labeling Christians, labeling Muslims, labeling regular people as haters for believing what mankind has believed for 6,000 years of recorded human history, labeling Christians and Muslims as haters for believing in the teachings of their religion, of their holy book, of their prophets and their God, is so hateful, you almost don't know what to do with it. In fact, under Justin Trudeau's definition of hate, Barack Obama was a hater, right? When he ran for president, a lot of people forgot already. When he ran for president, he said marriage is a divine union between a man and a woman. Under Justin Trudeau's ideas, that is hateful. So that's how far removed and unhinged this man has become.
And let's add Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and all those hosts of Democrats who looked in the camera in 2008 and said, yep, marriage between a man and a woman. And as we've pointed out many times, Obama wins his last and final presidential election. He no longer has to face the voters, and he has an epiphany, right?
An evolution. Yeah.
All of a sudden. Evolution takes millions of years, doesn't it? His took one day. One day. He won, and then that was it. And Alex, so we also have a video of one of these protesting people who are trying to protect their kids that Justin Trudeau just called homophobes. Listen to this dad trying to convince people what he's all about in protecting parents.
Our children is like there's a line that's drawn in our children. I think ideologies should be taught at home, what the parents want, and the way that they're forcing this, it's not right. It's not like we had a roundtable discussion where they're like, hey, like what do we want in our education system? No, this has been infiltrated without anybody's consent, and now when for our own children we want to speak out, we're creating hate. We're creating division? I don't think so. I don't think we're creating division. Look around. Look how many skin colors, religions. Look how many people are united. Why? Because we have one thing in common, and that's our children.
Now, this is clearly an immigrant clearly not a white dude. This is not the racist white people of Canada. These are minorities. These are people who have alternative religions. They are not necessarily Christians. These are the people, we're told, who are the moral authority in the world, not the colonialist left-wing Canadian government who rises to salute Nazis. These are the people we're supposed to be looking to for guidance. And of course, the LGBTQ is shouting them down, and Trudeau sees them as the problem in the country, not him.
Yep. And, we need to talk about this, Duke. The people historically who have tried to marginalize and get parents out of the picture are typically the people who have very nefarious motivations.